Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Standard Definition, the Retro and Nostalgia Podcast here on the Boss Rush Network. This is MCU in Review, Part 3. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Dirrig, and alongside me, as always, is the PC Muscle Race, LeRon Dawkins.
What's up?
Also joining us is the Entertainment Master, the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Pererra.
Hello.
Hi, Mark.
Hi.
Mark's everybody's favorite part of this show, by the way.
Really?
Just want
Yep, can agree. I can agree.
Not just this, though, no, like the Disney one also.
Look at this guy. He's a superstar.
Yeah, he just does all the research. And we just kind of tag along, it feels like.
Listen, I'm just super smart and very talented and attractive and all the good things. So
all the things. Mark is all the things.
All the things.
Oh, man. How's everyone doing? Everyone doing good? Did you guys survive without me last week?
Did we even know he was gone last week?
Were you gone?
Yeah, I was gone. I went on.
I'm just kidding.
I had no clue.
Well, I told LeRon and Stephanie. I don't know if I really told anybody else. I just put it in the Discord. I was gone.
You did. We talked about it with Stephanie last week.
Yeah.
And then I saw your tweets and stuff. It looked like you had a good time.
I did.
Yep.
Yeah.
LeRon has some blackmail pictures.
I sure do. Don't piss me off, man.
Nah, it's funny.
Wait, do y'all work together?
What? No.
No.
On Wednesday,
Corey is very friendly in group text. That's all.
I went to we went to a party after one of the events, and I sent them some pictures from the party in our Boss Rush podcast group chat. And
sorry, I must not have gotten those texts. Sorry, I was just checking my phone.
Oh man, yeah. Don't worry. I heard the after dark.
Kidding.
I heard the after dark while I was editing it. You and Stephanie making fun of me for like the first 10 minutes of the episode. It's cool.
Oh yeah.
It's cool. It's fine. But we're not here to talk about parties. We're here to talk about Iron Man 2, the third movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But before we get to that, this is Standard Definition, the Retro and Nostalgia Podcast here on the Boss Rush Network, where each and every Sunday we come together with our friends from around the internet to talk about games, movies, shows, and other topics that make us nostalgic. You can support us and get the show 2 weeks early by heading over to our Patreon, patreon.com/Boss Rush Network, or subscribe on free feeds. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave us a 5-star review. You can also catch all of our content on our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Boss Rush Network, or on bossrush.net, where you can see all of our news and our writings and our banter pieces and all that good stuff. The merch store is open. You can get the Standard Definition Marvel and Review shirt or a sticker or I don't know, whatever else you're into. It's probably there. Go buy it.
That t-shirt is sexy, y'all. That t-shirt is sexy.
It is. It's a
good
good one.
Cool shirt.
So go get it. It's a good time. Yeah. So before we get into kind of all this, Iron Man 2, guys, to this point, I think it's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I love Iron Man 2.
I mean, we're only 3 movies in.
Yeah, we're only 3 movies in.
I said up to this point.
That's a take. That is a take.
It is. It's a good one. I like Iron Man 2.
Iron Man 2 is a good movie. I don't know if it's the best one so far.
I guess our vote we'll figure it out on our vote at the end of the episode.
It's true.
Teasing you guys. Woo! No, I know it's not going to be everybody's favorite. But Iron Man 2 was released on May 7th, 2010. I don't know why it says 27. By Paramount Pictures and Marvel Studios, directed once again by Jon Favreau. The highly anticipated sequel features Robert Downey Jr. reprising the iconic role, as well as a few familiar faces and the introduction of others. With The world now aware that he is Iron Man, Tony Stark faces pressures from all sides to share his technology with the military. He is reluctant to divulge the secrets of his armored suit, fearing the information will fall into the wrong hands. With Pepper Potts, played by Gwyneth Paltrow once again, and Rhodey, now played by the superior Don Cheadle. Great entrance, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Very clearly saying, get over it. Terrence Howard's not here. I'm here. Right? He's like, it's me.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Yeah, he walks in and he's like, I'm me. I'm here. Deal with it.
Yep.
It's awesome. With Rhodey by his side, Tony must forge new alliances and confront a powerful new enemy. Ivan Vanko, played very suitably by Mickey Rourke, and Justin Hammer, played by Sam Rockwell. Had a budget of $200 million and finished at the box office with $623.9 million. Other notable films that year, if we were talking about this before we started recording, big year in movies. Avatar, Toy Story 3, Alice in Wonderland, the third Twilight movie, Inception, Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 1, Despicable Me, Shrek Forever After, How to Train Your Dragon, Prince of Persia, the Karate Kid remake, Tangled, Grown Ups, Tron Legacy, The Other Guys, Sherlock Holmes, The Expendables, Book of Eli, Social Network. And I stopped right there because I was like, man, that is way too many movies, and there are that many more on the list.
That is a ridiculous list of movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, man.
Let me see. Let me see. Out of all those movies that year, let me see. I saw Avatar, Inception, Deathly Hallows, Despicable Me, How to Train Your Dragon, Prince of Persia, Karate Kid. I saw Tangled. I want to say Tangled's probably my favorite movie on that list.
Tangled's awesome.
Tron Legacy.
I love
Sherlock
Tron
Holmes.
Legacy.
Sherlock Holmes, The Expendables, Book of Eli was some good shit, and The Social Network.
Mm-hmm. The Town also came out that year. Little Fockers came out that year. The third Chronicles of Narnia movie came out that year. The A-Team remake came out that year. Let's see. The Sorcerer's Apprentice, which was terrible with Nicolas Cage, came out that year. Let's see. Resident Evil Afterlife came out that year.
Ooh.
Tooth Fairy, starring The Rock, came out that year. Easy A came out that year. Yeah, there's so many movies that came out there. Hot Tub Time Machine came out that year. Kick-Ass. Saw the Final Chapter came out, and then they ended up making
Kick-Ass
four more. Black Swan came out that year. Yeah, man.
Kick-Ass was a great movie.
There's so many movies that came out that year, man. That was a good year. Scott Pilgrim versus the World came out that year.
Wait, in 2010?
Mm-hmm. Princess and the Frog came out that year.
Man, dude.
Princess and the Frog and Tangled came out in the same year?
Yeah, I think Tangled came out in the spring, and then Princess and the Frog came out in the whatever that. According to this Box Office Mojo releases for 2010.
Oh, I think it's lying to you. Princess and the Frog came out in 2009.
Oh, well, then it came out at the end of 2009.
By the way, Princess and the Frog is a vastly superior film to Tangled. And that is the hill that I will die on.
You guys need to invite me on to freaking the Disney Standard Definition.
I will die on.
We will fight.
I think Princess and the Frog is extremely underrated, but I don't know if it's as good as Tangled.
I agree.
It is light years ahead of Tangled.
I love Tangled.
Light years.
Oh, I love Tangled too.
So also, my daughter loves Tangled.
Tangled as well, not Tangled 2. I don't know how I feel about Tangled 2.
There isn't a Tangled 2, so
there was a follow-up to that movie. What was it called?
There's an animated series.
There's a TV show.
Oh, okay, that's what. That's what I'm getting confused with.
Yeah. So yeah, early thoughts on Iron Man 2, guys.
Okay. You know what? It was better than I remember it being when I saw it back in 2010. It was better. Now, I'm not saying it was better by much, but it was better. It was entertaining. I guess I guess my memory as I moved further and further away from it when I initially saw it was that it was lackluster because I think the next movie we have up is Thor, and then we get to Captain America, which Captain America was the movie I was actually waiting for that whole Phase 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, so when I made the comparison last the Iron Man 1 Stare Death that we did to this one as we were getting forecasting the future, I was like, man, I hated that movie. I don't hate it. Like I had a chance to rewatch it, and it actually redeemed itself. Sometimes our memory is not as good as we want it to be.
So
I think.
Sorry. Go ahead, LeRon. Or Mark, whoever's going.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think this is one of those instances where, like, you have to remove yourself from when it came out in 2010, because now in 2022, MCU movies are always generating new plot threads that will be seen in 5 other projects that come out in the next 10 years, right? And there's just this machinery that has all these different characters and threads weaving in and out of everything. But back in 2010, all we had was Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk, which were 2 very standalone movies. And so the big criticism of Iron Man 2 when it came out was that you could hear the wheels churning. You could see the machine that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the first time that you could see that. Before, it was these 2 standalone stories that could conceivably happen in the same world, but they didn't really interact much. Mm-hmm. But now you've got the S.H.I.E.L.D. subplot, and then there's Black Widow, and then Nick Fury's there for a lot of the movie, and they throw in Captain America's S.H.I.E.L.D., and there's just all this stuff.
A really weird version of Captain America's S.H.I.E.L.D.,
yeah, right?
by the way.
Right,
it was
like a
this
prototype
plastic.
S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, right. But it's now watching it, because I was surprised that I liked it a lot more than I did when I first saw it, because now it doesn't, we're used to that. We're used to seeing those storylines being threaded into everything. We're used to seeing all the connectivity. And so it doesn't feel so like the big machinery now. It just feels like part of what they were always trying to do. But in 2010, it was like, you know, we're losing the thread of Tony Stark, and it's too much of trying to fulfill these other story needs that need to happen in later films. But I don't think that criticism stands now anymore. And so it really is a much better film than I think it was in 2010.
I think for me, flashing back to like what may have motivated me to say this was a bad movie is because I will continue to say this. I think the villain was weak, and I think that ultimately hurt the movie in my first look at it. You know, I think that's what it was, because in all honesty, like even looking at the movie just fresh, like I just watched it last week to get ready for this show, I was like, man, like we could have had something a lot better than Whiplash.
See, I liked Whiplash. I thought he was cool. I thought I thought he was cool until like the very end. I didn't like his like Ironmonger-esque Whiplash suit. I like the scene when he walks out onto the track and his jumpsuit melts away and he's just like slicing cars in half. That's scary.
Yeah. You know? But I would argue, I don't think that Whiplash is the villain of the movie. I think Tony Stark is the villain of the movie, and I think that his own ego and pride are the consequences and the repercussions of that come to a head in the movie. And so I feel like when you view it like that, Whiplash isn't a weak villain. He's just a supporting villain.
Tony Stark, in my opinion, is the villain of all the fucking movies that he shows up in.
I mean, yes, he typically is, but until the last movie. But so I think when you view it that way, Whiplash isn't so much a disappointment or a weak villain. He's just there in service of the larger story, which is hubris and Tony Stark's pride getting the better of him.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. I guess I agree with you. I don't know. I tried to go in thinking like because I haven't really. I watched Phase 1 stuff like probably like 2017, I guess. I started I rewatched all the Phase 1 movies, and like there's so many now that I just kind of like pick and choose which ones I want to watch now, and I kind of pick like, okay, well, I want to watch Captain America's storyline, so I'll watch the movies that Captain America's in leading up to you know, you kind of they do a kind of a cool job of like, hey, you don't have to watch all the movies. You can pick which character you want to follow, and you can just watch all their movies or whatever. You know,
kind of like how it is with the comic book universe.
Yeah, and
Right.
you know, then you get to the crossover stuff, which would be like the Avengers or whatever, and it's like, oh well, it's cool seeing these characters again, you know, and like you said, LeRon, that it really reminds me of like the old school comic stuff, and I think that when I first saw this movie, I liked it, but I didn't love it because like I still didn't understand the concept of what they were trying to do, right? Like I didn't really know a lot about the Avengers up to that point because I was, you know, like we said previously, like I was really into X-Men and they didn't really cross over a lot, especially with Iron Man. You know, whenever they crossed over with someone, it was usually Spider-Man or you know, Fantastic Four or something, right?
But I know this. Whenever they did cross over Iron Man, like because by the time Iron Man started popping in and out of X-Men comics, like he was already a big deal with Shield, so he was always fucking with their shit.
Yeah, and so like I don't know, I just didn't care. And when I saw this movie at first, I was like, man, I don't care about any of this stuff. It's this really what they're trying to do? They're trying to make like a team movie, you know, and then like it started coming out like, oh, we're really building towards the Avengers and all this stuff, right? And then I really started paying attention. And you know, obviously the next movie was Thor. I was like, oh man, this is kind of whatever. At the time, I haven't watched Thor since it came out, by the way.
I'm excited. Thor was my favorite one with the first batch, the first go around. So we'll see what happens.
So I watching it this time, I like knowing now what happens and like how almost vital this movie is really to at least kickstart the Avengers, right? It was like, I really liked this movie. I felt like they shoved two movies into one movie, but I really liked this movie. Really kind of playing around with Tony being an alcoholic and like being depressed because he's dying, right? And like really showing the human side of Tony and what happens when you know you're probably going to die because you can't control what's inside you, right? And I really thought that was interesting and something that I don't know if Disney really explored all that much, right? I mean, they did a little bit in Iron Man 3. Well, they tried with like the PTSD stuff, but like, yeah, I don't know. I really liked how they handled Tony's character in a lot of this movie. So I don't know. I think so far this is my favorite of the three movies. And I don't think I would have said that 10, 12 years ago.
Sure. Which makes me excited for like just rewatching these movies, but like even now, movies that I don't so much like, because I kind of feel like Phase 4 is a little bit of a Phase 1 of this next phase, right? And so I didn't love the Eternals.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But I'm really interested 10 years from now when they've woven in their stories to the rest of the MCU and we learn more about them. And am I going to go back and really like the Eternals because I know more about them and I know more of their story? And so it's one of the cool things of the many cool things about the MCU, but that it's able to redeem a lot of its past, I wouldn't say mistakes, but a lot of its past not so great decisions and movies and stuff and make them more relevant and make them an integral part of the story later on.
Yeah. I like you, I didn't really care for the Eternals. I thought it was really long and kind of boring, honestly. And like a lot of the things that happen in that movie, I feel like they're not earned because we don't know who these characters are really, like, you know what I mean? And it feels like they're teasing a lot of things that maybe people who are really into the Eternals really know, like when they teased, you know, when they teased Thanos for the first time after the Avengers, right? Like I think a lot of people who are into the Eternals or, you know, the cosmic Marvel stuff are like, oh my gosh, that happened or whatever. But like, I didn't understand any of it. You know what I mean? That just, you know, and
well, it'll probably all start making sense once Guardians 3 comes out.
Yeah, but it's like, oh well, the guy from One Direction shows up and Jon Snow shows up,
Spoiler
and
alert.
like I'm like, who are you? I don't know who you are. Am I supposed to
Right.
care? Like, you just talk about watermelons in your song. Like, I don't care. Whatever. I was trying to keep it PG, by the way, because I know that song's really not about
'Cause
watermelons.
that's not what he's talking about.
I know. But like, I liked some of the characters, right? Like, I liked Cersei and everything, but I hope that movie, what it kind of sets up, really pays off down the road, because it did nothing for me at that point.
But I think it will.
Mm-hmm.
I think this movie did nothing for a lot of people back in 2010 when it came out, and I think it means a lot more now, having seen what Marvel's done over the past however many years. So I think it will. But that's one of the great things about Marvel, is that they have time to develop these stories over movies and now TV shows, and so
yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about some of these characters. So this is the first time we're having characters, return in a movie, like majorly, right? Like, so I don't know if we want to talk about the characters again. Like, do we want to talk about Tony Stark in this movie? Like, do we want to have that conversation?
Well, I feel like we already mentioned enough. Like, and the main thing about this movie was he was coming to grips because the invention of the arc reactor that saved his life is actually killing him.
Yeah,
and that kind of spurned basically what was going on with him for 3/4 of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of like that. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like he made some really rash decisions and stuff like that. Like he promoted Pepper to CEO of Stark Industries. He was really checking out. Like, he had already revisited some of Howard Stark, his dad's his old work and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until he got his shit kicked in by Rhodes. Mm-hmm. That then and after getting a pep talk from Nick Fury, that like he finally like kind of got his shit together.
Yeah, I really like how I really like the scene where he like destroys his house, like the rest of his house, to start working on this, and I think that scene's cool. I still think the Captain America shield in this movie is like really strange. I just don't understand why it's like here, I get that they're like, go ahead.
I was gonna say it was in Howard's stuff, and Howard made the first shield for him, so it was a prototype of Captain America's shield, but it
before
just was
the
very
vibranium one,
right? But it just was very just.
It looked like a kid's toy.
Captain America was a known entity at this point. People know who Captain America is, and so it just seemed like it should have been a bigger deal than it was, but it was kind of just a quip and like a wink to the audience, but it just was kind of fell flat.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting though? What's interesting, and this is a bit of foreshadowing, it already shows that Stark is going to have a disrespect for Captain America as we get further along in it.
Yeah,
that's true. I also really liked how I liked the racing scene. I like how you really see him really not caring, right? And he's like, "Well, I'm going to race my own race car," and that suit, by the way, from the briefcase suit, is my favorite Iron Man in the entire MCU. I think that suit is so cool looking. I just love the design. I love how agile it looks. I love the way it he puts it on. I think it's cool. You think
it's better than the nanopolymer suit?
Yeah, it's the coolest suit. It's
the Infinity War.
Yeah, it's the coolest suit in all the MCU. I think it's my favorite suit.
I think that whole sequence is so well done and so well choreographed, and so it really earns that suit because it comes in a really amazing moment that's been built towards throughout the whole scene. So I agree. It is. I don't know if it's my favorite one, but it's definitely one of the top suits in the MCU for sure.
Yeah. It's just cool. Like they chuck it out the window right after the car is like sliced in half and moving back and forth, and the door keeps shutting. Like that whole scene is like pretty funny. I do think the one thing that I didn't care for, though, I felt like not all of it, just like one or two little interactions between him and Pepper felt a little forced because they knew what they had from the first movie and they tried to replicate it, I think, too much, and it just felt forced. But other than that, like I don't know. I think this movie kind of really nailed it. I don't know.
I agree.
Yeah, I like what they. I mean, it's easy to movies fall into this trope where like a character becomes really popular, but they've had a whole movie's worth of character development and growth, right? But then studios want to recreate what made that work so well. And so like a perfect example of this is the Pirates movies, right? Jack Sparrow was so great in the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. And so they were like, let's capitalize on this some more. And in the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, none of the character growth that he had in the first movie is present. He starts over at ground one every single time because that's what people loved about it. And what I love about Iron Man 2 and the other appearances of Iron Man is that, yes, he's still Tony Stark. He's still he's very egocentric, and he's kind of smarmy and all of that. But he still has that character growth, but they introduce new things that allow him to kind of revert back to how he was. Like in this movie, he thinks he's dying. And so he kind of is like, well, I don't care anymore about things. And so I'm going to race my car or whatever. In Iron Man 3, it's PTSD. In Civil War, it's because, he decides he wants to do right by, the sins of his past. And so it's a great way to have your cake and eat it too. We get all the good character development of the first Iron Man film, but we still get some of that same Iron Man that we loved from the first one because he's got kind of a new angle to it.
Right? Let's not forget it drops the hints that Tony actually resents his dad.
Right.
Oh yeah, I mean that's kind of like
that's a big plot point that will happen. Going into the next couple of movies that features Tony Stark's character.
Yeah, but I mean that's kind of like a plot point in this movie though too, right? Like where he's kind of like, well, Dad never cared about anything, but they sent him. He even made that line where he's like, my dad sent me to boarding school because he didn't like me so at all, right? Like that was a big point in the movie,
right?
So Tony is pretty much Tony. Pepper Potts, I don't know if we have much to say about her really in this movie, except that she's running the company and she really kind of owns the role really in this movie. Like she's definitely in charge. It's
I felt like she was in charge the last movie though.
I know, but I
mean this really just felt like someone coming into their own, this time though.
Right.
Yeah. So
because I mean, if you look at it, like Tony runs the company, he invents stuff, but I mean, in all honesty, like from the outside looking in, if we didn't know who this guy was, it looks like he's just pissing away the company and just letting his R&D crew do the work.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, like he kind of is. I mean,
I know, but like I said, on the outside looking in, like he's kind of like on the outside looking in, he's kind of like, well, not Tim Cook, but you know what I mean. Like Tim, like he's the face, at this point, right? He's still behind the scenes doing shit, but he's also behind the scenes doing shit on his own personal shit, like the Iron Man suit, for example.
Yeah, he definitely like prefers to be in what does he call it? Demolition mode or whatever.
Right.
Like he definitely prefers that over everything else.
And I just love how he talks shit to the mechanical arm. I love it.
God, dude, that arm, man, I feel so bad for that arm.
I love, and this is one of the things that I love, and will forever say that I love about the MCU is I love little moments like that are just totally unnecessary to the plot, but just serve to give some humanity and just a little bit of levity, right? But then they pick up that thread in movies to come, and they're still drawing from that well. And so, sorry if this is spoiler alert to the latest Spider-Man movie, but that arm is in the Spider-Man movie.
Oh,
and
spoilers!
It's just there for a second. It's not. He's the sixth of the Sinister Six, but
makes sense.
But that was a joke. But anyway, it was just an aside, and it's like totally unnecessary, but really just kind of helps to build that world. That's one of my favorite things that Marvel does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think later on we don't get as much of that as we do early on, but I think it's because there's just so much going on that like every little thing leads to a new character or whatever. But yeah, that arm we should do like just like a standard def on the arm of Iron, like the Iron Man's pet arm.
Track its journey.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a good one. So Pepper Potts, I guess we kind of said all we needed to say about her.
Yeah.
James Rhodes, Don Cheadle's James Rhodes, we need to talk about. He is the best part of this whole movie.
Oh, true.
Oh my gosh, dude. Don Cheadle is like, he's such an underrated actor, I feel like, in a lot of ways. Like every time he's in something, he's amazing. But like I feel like he just always feels like a second tier actor, and I don't know why. He's so good in this.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it for Iron Man. We didn't love Terrence Howard as James Rhodes, and it wasn't believable, their friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And while I think a little bit they made James Rhodes just a little bit more like Tony Stark, in his humor and delivery, I do think that Don Cheadle just really just effortlessly fits in and is just really great. I mean, he's just good. I feel the same way about Gwyneth Paltrow's Pepper Potts. Like, there's nothing that I would say like, oh, this scene right here or that scene right there, but they just elevate the film, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what he does, because he's getting Armor Wars, the TV show he's going to be in, and so I'm excited to see what he does in the future for the MCU. But I thought he was fantastic in this movie.
Yeah, he's awesome. I wish I could go back to Iron Man 1 and just like
I know,
just put him in it somehow. Like, I mean,
Photoshop him in.
Yeah, he's so good.
I forget what was the exact reason for why? Was it Terrence Howard was just negotiating for too much money? He was negotiating for more presents.
He was negotiating
all of it.
Yeah, he wanted Robert Downey Jr.'s contract, the same contract, and they didn't want to give it to him because I don't know, I mean, obviously once the MCU took off, like, you see all the stories about how much everybody made, and Robert Downey Jr. makes like 100 times more than everybody else because of that original contract, right? Because he makes the money off the back end,
Right.
And man, no wonder why they wanted to kill him off. No offense, but and now everybody makes like, I don't know, pennies on the dollar to him.
Well, actually, I remember him campaigning to like get the people more money as everything extended out and stuff like that.
Yeah, because, but he was campaigning for himself though. I mean, that was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's like what, like if you don't vote for yourself in the election, are you dumb?
But I think that Terrence Howard's point, not that I know him or was around during this time, but I remember reading interviews and stuff, and it just kind of seems like Terrence Howard was the star in the first film, from the sense that obviously Robert Downey Jr. was a star, but what I mean is he was a risk, and we talked about this a lot in the Iron Man episode, but he was kind of a gamble. But Terrence Howard was a bankable star at that point. And so I could see, and I remember reading in interviews and stuff, he was like, hey, listen, I was the one who was the golden child in the first movie, so you need to pay me what you're paying Robert Downey Jr. now, because it was just a short couple of years ago that y'all were nervous about having him in this movie. So I think, and I think his ego got a little bit in the way as well, because he was like, well, you need me, and they were like, well, no, we don't.
No, we don't.
Yeah. Oh man, but Man, Don Cheadle, dude, when he steals the armor and they like make War Machine, I love War Machine. Dude, that armor is so cool looking. Like it's just like, oh, like I get like Iron Man's like super flashy and everything, but War Machine's just literally built to destroy things, right?
Yes.
It's just I love the Gatling gun on his shoulder, right? Like I love just like everything is just like he's just a tank. He's just a walking tank, and it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so good. So good. Let's see here. The next character on the list, Happy Hogan's played by Jon Favreau, gets knocked out by Scarlett Johansson.
Was that a knockout?
Yeah, dude. She annihilated him.
No, he was tapping. That wasn't a knockout.
Whatever. He tapped out. It's
it was a good scene.
Yeah. Clark Gregg reprises his role as Phil Coulson. Obviously we see him kind of becoming a more likable presence in the MCU. Like this is where he really finds himself, I feel like, as that character.
I just love the scene where he basically gives Tony the parameters of his babysitting assignment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. He's like
I will call some people in and they'll tase you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like when Tony Stark leaves and like he left because he was like in a meeting or something, and he's like, I heard you left the premises. Did you leave the premises? And he's like, yeah, what, and he's like, you weren't supposed to leave the premises. And he's like,
he was like, that was 3 days ago. Where were you?
And then he's just like, he makes him like get Captain America's shield. And you like, this is before, Coulson's like a huge Captain America fan, but when you look at him and he's putting it under, he like has this look of horror on his face. And that scene really hits home after you see Avengers, right? And like,
I forgot about that, right?
Yeah. And he's like, then at one point he's just like, in the straightest face, the stiffest face, he's like, I'm leaving. I've been reassigned somewhere in New Mexico. And then he just leaves. Which is obviously the lead into Thor. But
right.
Oh, man. Phil Coulson, man. By the way, LeRon, did you see the hashtag on Twitter? Save Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I see it pops up every week.
Yeah. I thought of you when I saw that. While I was working last week. I was like, I bet LeRon started that somewhere.
No, I didn't start that, but every time it shows up in trending, I always jump on it. I always jump on and put something out there. I hate to admit it, because I know I'm going to get so much flack for it, but I just finished another rewatch of Jace.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Like, I just finished a rewatch.
The whole show?
Yeah, this is officially my second complete rewatch of the show.
Yikes.
Yeah, because normally what I'll do is I'll just start on my favorite season. I won't tell everybody my favorite season, but I usually start on my favorite season and just run from there. But this time I was like, you know what, let's start. Thank you guys. Like we're doing MCU freaking recap, so thank you. Like, I mean,
LeRon, I'm telling you, we will do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I will. Okay. I will start watching.
You promise?
Yes.
You promise?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we will do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. As long as we can do Agent Carter as well.
Oh hell yeah! I love that show.
I loved Agent Carter.
I love Agent Carter.
I love Haley Atwell, dude. I hope she gets to play Captain Britain in something, right? Like
I'm sure she will be Captain Britain in Doctor Strange.
You think so? Oh man.
Yeah. I think so.
She's so good in that role.
Yeah, she's really good.
But we'll talk about her later because I have a lot to say about her. Natasha Romanoff makes her debut. Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. Very 2010 portrayal of of a new kind of hot character walking into the scene. Right. That was don't know if they get away with that these days, really, but someone would be mad. But yeah, she's definitely made to be the sex appeal of this. And when she walks in and they're boxing, and he's just kind of like staring at her while he takes a sip from his water bottle. And then Pepper has to remind him that she's a walking sexual harassment lawsuit.
Right.
Oh man, my favorite part is when he sits down. He's like, "I want one." She says no.
Yeah. This movie did what I thought was pretty impossible to do at the time. But before this movie, I did not like Scarlett Johansson, and I did not like Samuel L. Jackson. I didn't think they were good actors. I didn't like the movies that they were in. I thought Scarlett Johansson was a terrible actor. But this
she's a worse singer.
I haven't. Well, that's not true. I have heard her sing. She's good in sing. Sing too.
In that, yes. Her actual music, I've listened to both her albums. No,
I didn't even know she had an album.
She had 2 albums.
That's
But anyway, I thought
I've
she
never
was
been on the
great.
ScarJo train. I've never been on the ScarJo train, but I mean, I do appreciate her in this.
I thought she was great in this. I thought she was very different than how she is in later MCU films, but it kind of goes with her character. Her character's like basically an actress, right? Like she's just changing to be who she needs to be for the situation. So I think she kind of has a built-in scapegoat for why she's so different in this movie than she is in other movies. So I thought she was good in it.
Yeah, she's pretty good in this, especially like towards the end when they're like fighting through the convention, right? And Jon Favreau like spends the whole time on one guy, and she takes out like probably 12 of them in that hallway, and then again, very questionable walk down the hallway in these days, but
it was fan service.
Yeah.
They're like, you know what? It was like we've had the audience sitting here long enough waiting for this. Let's give it to them.
Yeah. Or like even when they're driving there and she's like changing clothes in the backseat and Jon Favreau's like trying to watch her. And like without even like looking at him, noticing, she's just like, keep your eyes on the road. It's like she knows. She knows.
Which he wrote the movie, he directed the movie. So he basically was just like, I want Scarlett Johansson to get naked in the back of the car, and I want to watch her. And so he like, there's a little element of creepiness there because he's just like, and then they start, making out. Like he writes that, and they're like, no, that doesn't make sense for the movie. Like, no, it does. We need to film it. They start making out for 10 minutes.
One thing I will say, because I think back to the smattering of Iron Man comics that I've read, as I've grown up and stuff like that. And I've said this before with the other 2 standard definitions we've done so far for the MCU, is I just love that they modernize and make the characters more real and believable and stuff like that. Because I mean, Pepper Potts was useless until like, I want to say all new Marvel, like, well,
until they made her rescue, pretty much, right? Like, I mean,
yeah. And Happy, same thing. Like, I mean, Pepper was glorified secretary, and Happy was just like the yes man.
Yeah. That's what I really liked about early MCU, and and I think that's why like Guardians doesn't really hit for me, or like any of the cosmic stuff. Like Thor is okay, but like the early MCU and up through probably partway through phase 3 almost, it was like everything feels grounded, right? Everything feels plausible at some point. And like it's all kind of based in science almost. And I don't know, once you get into like the cosmic stuff, I think that's where you lose me, and I think that's why this is why I like these early movies so much, is like it just feels plausible and feels like it's based in like a real world kind of, it could happen maybe, right?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely takes a turn, especially once you start getting into Avengers, and then I guess it takes a turn in Thor. But Thor, they tried to make it seem less alien and more like mystical and gods and stuff. But Yeah, I mean, there's definitely at some point where they made a decision, and it's like you got to turn off your brain to the realism and just enjoy the ride.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I don't know. I think like Doctor Strange was a lot for me, right? Because like I before we started this rewatch, I kind of thought that like Captain America and the Winter Soldier is my favorite Marvel movie.
Yes.
And like
agreed.
Like before I'm going into this rewatch, kind of like, okay, I'm kind of going with a clean slate. I'm going to try to like not forget the movies, but like go in with like an open mind and like, okay, well, maybe this is different. Maybe I like this, but like I like that one because I like the military kind of grounded stuff of that movie. You know, I'm okay. We're dealing with super soldiers here, but like, you know, I really like that aspect of the movie, which I think is why I liked Falcon and the Winter Soldier so much. The show is because like it's literally just a grounded military movie almost, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Or show.
I feel like to this point, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is probably my favorite of the series right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really liked Falcon and the Winter Soldier. WandaVision surprised me, and we'll talk more when we get to WandaVision. But like, because like that's the stuff that I'm just like, that's where you're gonna lose me. I think is that right? But it got me, you know, just because like as mystical and magical and whatever as it is, Wanda in particular is super relatable in that entire run, right? Like she's just, at least for me, like a lot of experience with loss and whatever. Like that's just, she's super relatable. But like, I don't know. Maybe I just need to shut up and watch some good movies, I guess.
Yeah, because we know you haven't seen a lot of them.
Hey, you know, I can now say I watched Ghostbusters, okay? There's proof. We did a podcast.
I've never seen Ghostbusters.
You know what? That's okay.
See, luckily for you, you're sitting with the right set of people, because like if you were on Crossroads, like man, one person at Crossroads would have crucified you for hearing that.
Yeah,
it's true. All right, Ivan Vanko, played by Mickey Rourke. This was he did a lot of work for this role, and I remember him being really mad after this movie came out. That
what was he mad about?
Like it wasn't really like the role that they promised, and they just like really, I don't know, they kind of wrote him one way and they shot some stuff and they kind of cut out some of the stuff that they wrote for him, and he actually went to Russia and kind of like learned mannerisms and some of the language and the accent and everything, and like I just remember him being really mad after this movie came out.
Well, shit, like that's sad, because like if they did cut it a certain way, he never came off like a Russian to me.
Yeah.
I mean, he wanted to do a much different film than ended up, and there's a lot of like trouble behind the camera, and not just related to him, but I mean, there's a reason why Jon Favreau didn't come back and direct another movie, but but I think he wanted to have a more nuanced and more real character, and Marvel just wanted kind of a, you know, hey, stick to the script and here's what we want. But I mean, he went to a Russian prison and did research there, like everything from like his clothes to he designed what his teeth looked like,
his tattoos,
the little cockatoo or whatever it was. That was his idea. And I love the casting of Mickey Rourke, because here's another actor who came up in the 80s just like Robert Downey Jr., who fell on some hard times just like Robert Downey Jr., and who was seeing kind of a resurgence because he just did The Fighter or something. The Wrestler the year before, and was like getting a lot of notoriety for that and praise. And so I love the picture of here's another opportunity to bring in this actor who's kind of on a redemption arc and let them be in this movie.
Yeah.
But it sounds like he didn't get the movie that he wanted to get.
Yeah. He definitely did really well in this movie. I loved him in this movie. I think he's like one of his story mixed with Whiplash is like he made the Iron Man suits whips, which is like hilarious if you think about it. But it was like we mentioned at the top of the show, like the car scene where he's just literally slicing them in half with these electric whips, and like the way he like has the suit on underneath the jumpsuit, and the jumpsuit just kind of melts away when he activates it.
Yeah.
And like he's super scary, right? Like that's terrifying. And like just like the way that he kind of takes over Hammer stuff at the end, right, is kind of really cool. And like I just think he's a cool character. I really liked him in this role, and I kind of feel bad that he didn't get the role that he wanted, but also like I think he did really well in this role.
Yeah, he did bang on. Like I said, he didn't feel so much like the villain of the movie, where more like he felt like the menace of the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And like I did kind of feel bad that he played kind of second fiddle to Justin Hammer in this movie. Like he was just kind of like his lackey at the end of the day.
Goon.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, I didn't really care for the suit at the end. The big suit.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, it was just another instance of the end of a Marvel movie having to have some big brawl between, but it wasn't even that. I mean, it was kind of lackluster because they fought for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But I think, we're starting to see some of that. Marvel hadn't quite figured out their formula quite yet. And so like I alluded to, like there were issues all up and down the production of this movie. Marvel really trying to step in and be like, okay, we've had one really awesome hit, one kind of mediocre middle range hit, but this is like Iron Man 2, right? We need to make this something really special. And it just was, I think they went too far in trying to be, have their hands on everything and trying to kind of stifle the director's vision.
Right. Because I think so. Yeah, just to play off that. Sorry, Mark. I like Marvel really knew what they wanted to achieve, because probably after the popularity of Iron Man and even Hulk to an extent, they were like, yeah, let's go full force. We have to nail the Avengers movie, right? So if we have to sacrifice one or two of these kind of middling movies to achieve that, to get the goal at the end, then that's what we're going to do, and we need to be very picky on what we do, right? And
yeah,
this unfortunately was the movie that it probably had the most impact on.
Yeah, and I mean, Marvel has been pretty notorious for, like, Edgar Wright was supposed to direct Ant-Man, and he didn't want it to go the direction that Marvel needed it to for the rest of the stories that they were going to tell. Yeah. And so he left. And so Marvel, on the one hand, knows the 10-year, 20-year, 30-year plan and knows what each movie has to fulfill to do that. But I think it took them a while to get to a place where they could step back and let the director do what he wanted to do, who he or she wanted to do, but also steer the ship and know what service this story needs to tell.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite things that came from the friction in this movie is Jon Favreau then went to go do the movie Chef, which he directed and wrote as a response to this film. And if you haven't seen Chef, it's the story of a big restaurant chef who's like, I don't want to make this this food that everybody loves just because everybody loves it. I want to go and make art with my food. And so he quits his big paying job and gets a food truck. And Chef is one of my favorite movies of all time. But it is an allegory of the story of Iron Man 2. He wanted to make a much different film and have creative control, which he had in Iron Man 1, but they became really nervous. And so they just tied his hands too much. So, and I think it sounds like Mickey Rourke was a victim of that as well.
Yeah. It almost feels like, too, though, like, you hear kind of conflicting stories almost too, because James Gunn just had a big thing come out that said like Marvel never really told him how to direct or write Guardians of the Galaxy, except for you need to have these certain plot points in the movie, but you can do whatever you want as long as you include these things. And Taika Waititi said the same thing about Thor Ragnarok, right? Where like he kind of got to do what he wanted as long as he implemented this one or two, these one or two story beats into the movie, right? And but then like the Edgar Wright situation is like, well, you get a director like Edgar Wright, you need to let him do the movie he wants to do, right? Like he's a name,
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like there's either too much hand holding or not enough, or you know what I mean? And this was just a situation where there was too much. But also like at the time, like you think of the MCU now and how well they do everything, right? This was the literal birth of the MCU, and it's like, well, we have to nail it because we have this plan, and if we don't nail it, we are screwed,
Yeah.
And then Disney doesn't buy us for $8 million or whatever they bought them for.
Right.
Billion, not million.
Billion. Which kind of sounds like a quaint amount now.
I know.
Considering like Microsoft just buying Activision for $69 billion.
I know. Oh, gosh, that's insane. That's
a conversation for another day.
I mean,
yeah.
even Sony buying Bungie for almost $4 billion today was like
right.
Ugh, don't get me started on that. Anyways, other characters in this movie, Justin Hammer, played by Sam Rockwell. Sam Rockwell is so dumb in this movie.
Yeah, yeah. There's no way to say it. Like he's he basically is that CEO that we picture, in the real world as CEOs. Like he's just that guy that's basically he's the face. He's also the tool. He's also like the PR nightmare and all that stuff. And basically we see all of that roll off with his character throughout the entire movie. He's the face of the company at one point when they pull him up for the Senate Judiciary hearing with freaking Stark and Rhodes. And then next thing you know, he's the freaking tool because like he's breaking Vanko out of prison and stuff like that. And then he's stealing. And then he didn't so much steal the second Iron Man suit. He basically co-opted it.
Right.
Yeah, and of course he was trying to recreate the technology. And then at the end of it, of course, like there's the nice big corruption.
Yeah, he's the worst. Like he's I think he's actually what makes this movie worse. I think. Like I don't like.
You think
him.
he made the movie? You think he made the movie bad?
Yeah, I don't like him at all in this movie. Like I understand what they want to do with this character, but they go so overboard with it that it makes it unbelievable. To an extent, he's such an idiot.
Well, okay, well then how about? Because Actually, no. There's no justification for the character. Never mind. Forget what I was about to say.
Yeah, and then like he never comes back. I thought he was going to come back at some point.
Good point there, because like I swear, like the way they gave him his lines as they were leading him out the door, I was like, oh man, we'll see him again.
And I mean, like maybe we will.
I think we will. I think we're going to an Armor Wars.
That's true.
He'll be back for that.
Or even Ironheart. He could come back to Ironheart too. But go ahead, Mark.
You were talking. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say like in the courtroom when Tony Stark starts hacking all the screens and stuff, and they show the pilot turn all the way around, or
snap his own back,
or like he has the ice cream flown in from San Francisco, or like he when Mickey or when Vanko makes drones instead of suits. And he tries to make his butler put on the drone head, like a helmet. He's like, can you fit your head in there? Is that a helmet? I'm like, this is too far. Like, I understand what you're doing with the character. Like, the one scene that I think redeems him is when he locks Vanko up, right? And he's just, like, yelling at him, and he takes the bird. And, like that scene is good. But like everything else is just so over the top, and just like even like when he walks out on the stage, it does that little dance like he's trying to imitate Tony Stark, like he wants to be Tony. It's just like,
well, that's what it is. That's what
relax,
it is. He's like,
dude.
That's what it is, though. Basically, they're trying to show that this guy is a poser. Like, like he's just. Well, I'm not gonna say he's just as popular as Tony Stark, but like he is. They groomed him up to be a Fortune 500 CEO because I mean, hell, they had Elon Musk in the movie too.
Right.
Yeah, which I completely forgot about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But like basically they were trying. They were establishing him like he's a poser that just happens to be on the Fortune 500.
God, it's just he's the worst.
I could not disagree more. I loved Sam Rockwell as Justin Hammer. I loved I loved everything about you could see self tanner on the palm of his hands. I loved every single thing about him. And you have to, if you think in the world of Iron Man, you have Iron Man 1 where Stark Industries is the supplier for the US Army for all their weapons, and he shuts that down, right? Because he learns what they're doing, and so he shuts that down. So there's a vacuum that's created and there's no one there to do it. And so you've got this second-rate Tony Stark who wants to desperately be as charismatic, funny, good-looking, rich, brilliant as Tony Stark, but isn't, and so tries to compensate in other ways. And he just lucked into having this contract with the U.S. military to make all these weapons, but he can't do it. And so he tries to make up for it by being, the lovable, kind of funny, smarmy kind of guy. I thought he was excellent. I absolutely loved him in this movie. I hope we see more of him in the future. I love that Sam Rockwell was considered to be Tony Stark when they were casting for Tony Stark, and they came back to him for this. And I think everything about him was fantastic.
Wait. He was actually in the running to be originally cast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it was Sam Rockwell, Tom Cruise, and Nicolas Cage, I think was what we said the first time.
Nicolas Cage has been on the short list to play every superhero.
I know.
He was almost Superman in the 90s.
He was almost Batman, I think, when they cast Christian Bale.
Right.
Like, he was like, oh. Could you imagine Nicolas Cage as Bruce Wayne? Oh,
no.
God.
No.
Look, I like Nicolas Cage. I'm a big fan of National Treasure, which I think we should do a 2-offer of that at some point. Yeah. But, like, man, him as Iron Man, that's a choice.
Yeah, that is a choice.
So I don't not like the casting of Sam Rockwell. I think he's great. I just feel like the character itself
is the problem.
Is like how they wrote the character is kind of the problem for me.
Yeah, I mean it is over the top for sure.
Yeah. Because in my rewatch, I was thinking, like, damn, he's just trying way too hard. And I wasn't even talking about like Sam Rockwell trying too hard for this character. Right. Sam Rockwell, he nailed it. Honestly, like
he nails the direction of the character. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How they directed him, he nails. Right. It's one of those situations. It's just I don't like the way the character was directed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
The last character on this list here is Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson, which we saw show up in the original Iron Man at the post-credit scene. He's Samuel L. Jackson with an eye patch. The only movie I think I've seen him have not be Samuel L. Jackson is the Star Wars prequel movies, and even then he's like kind of
he was Samuel L. Jackson.
So he's just Samuel L. Jackson in a trench coat and an eye patch.
I think the only time I've actually seen him be 100% in character and not be Samuel L. Jackson was in A Time to Kill. I think it's the only time.
Well, in Django.
He's just old
Samuel.
He's just old Samuel L. Jackson. He's like, maybe. Samuel L. Jackson, act like you're 90 years old, but still Samuel L. Jackson, and he did it.
Maybe.
We should do a Quentin Tarantino one-off thing too, because I've only seen like 2 Quentin Tarantino movies, 3.
I think the only one I've seen is Django.
I've seen Django. I saw Inglourious Basterds, which I really love. Django was pretty good, and then
you really loved Inglourious Basterds?
I love that movie.
That movie was problematic for me.
Oh boy.
It was problematic for me. Like I've seen almost all of his movies. I know for sure there's 2 that I haven't seen. Like I haven't seen Hateful Eight, which
I've
is
never seen
sad.
that either.
Which is sad because I heard it's one of his good ones. I did see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but what's the other one? There's one other one, and I'm waiting for his quote unquote final movie to happen.
What, Star Trek, the rated R Star Trek movie?
Well, no. Apparently, like Tarantino had like this timeline for how he's going to get in and out of Hollywood. So his next, and he's like, he has this, I think he said he's going to do like 9 movies, and that's it. He's out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyways, Samuel, I did see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it was the most boring movie I've ever watched in my life.
I agree. I agree.
Samuel Jackson, like when he shows up and Tony Stark's just eating donuts in the giant donut, and he just says, "Can you please step out of the donut," or whatever. Like that whole scene is like, I don't know. The whole diner scene is kind of weird, right? Like I don't know. That whole scene just feels like it's another movie almost at that point.
But you want to know what's funny about that? It's a S.H.I.E.L.D. thing because like when you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you're gonna see so many instances of shit like that happening in the show. It's a S.H.I.E.L.D. thing. Now the one thing that had me like cracking up about that whole scene was when Tony was actually in the donut eating donuts and he was licking the powder off his gloved fingers, and I was like, how?
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't really do a lot in this movie, but he's just like he establishes himself in this movie.
I love the low key shit talking he did to Tony about.
Yeah.
He was like you let your boy have a suit, and he was like, wait, no, I didn't let him have a suit. He was like, oh, so you just let brother roll up in there and take it.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely establishes himself in this movie as like, I'm the guy, and you're gonna listen to me.
Oh man, there's so many more. There's so many more Samuel L. Nick Fury Jackson moments to come.
Yeah, and like at the end of the movie, I totally forgot that like they didn't accept Tony Stark into the Avengers at first.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like I totally forgot about that, and like that makes me like, did I forget something? Did I like miss something? And then I was like, I don't even remember the last time I watched the first Avengers movie to like, how did they rectify that? Except for the fact that like the threat was too big and Iron Man was too important.
I think that's what it is. I think they just completely ignore that.
Huh. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Honestly, Tony Stark in this continuity of Marvel, basically is like how Batman was in like the comics continuity of Justice League. He was always like a part-timer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense a little bit, but it's just like, man, I just didn't remember that at all.
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
All right. So is there any like plot points we missed? Is there anything we want to talk about? Like, I think this scene where Tony kind of is watching the film reels, like I just kind of want to talk about some of our favorite moments and least favorite or whatever.
Yeah. That was important. That was good, and it was important because it wasn't even that he was watching them. He was barely paying attention to them, and he was just letting them run. And then when he stumbled upon the recording that Howard made for him, like that was some big shit. Because I mean, to us now, like 20 plus something Marvel movies later, this helps give us our first insight to like Tony's even though Tony was mad at the world is dead for all sorts of reasons and stuff like that, like he still loved the guy, and he still basically like valued like the man's word and stuff like that. So it was great because he could have easily just got up as soon as that thing ended and was like, oh, fuck you, old man, and just walked away.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I really liked it. I really liked the kind of almost ironically like Walt Disney-esque, like let's walk around this big diagram of the table.
It reminded me of the Wonderful World of Disney.
Yeah,
those old school like
yeah, like where like Disney had like the when they're first talking about the experimental prototype City of Tomorrow, which ends up being like Epcot, right? The theme park in Disney World, and it's like. He even has like the Disney mustache and like the table, and like everything is just positioned like so deliberately, and it's just like, man, this is hilarious, because like Disney didn't own Marvel at this point. It was still Paramount, and like it just was just ironic that Disney buys them after Thor, I think they bought them after, or like signed the deal or whatever. Like Captain America, I think, was the last Paramount movie, right?
I think
or was
so.
it
I think Avengers was the first one.
Yeah.
Was the first Disney one, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, I really like that scene. I really like the house fight where him and Rhodey are fighting.
Yo, that was one of the ones I was going to point out, because man, like when, because you hear the music just like going back and forth, like it keeps changing, and then all of a sudden we hear Robot Rock by Daft Punk, and I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah, and he's like, hey DJ, drop me a fat beat so I can beat my buddy.
He starts with Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. Let's see, Another One Bites the Dust, It Takes Two, Robot Rock, and I forget what the fourth one was. But there was 4 different songs that played through that whole fight scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, so good. So, are there any other scenes that we didn't really hit on?
I mean, my favorite scene was the Monaco race scene.
Yeah.
Because that was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole scene is just that's a great scene. The whole scene is just good. Even when like Happy and Pepper are driving the wrong way on the racetrack. Like,
yes. Everyone gets involved.
Yeah.
And it's tense and
Yeah.
Yeah, I also like the first half of the scene when Vanko takes over War Machine, and like it's a chase scene where and Tony's basically like leading him all over the place and stuff, and he's like, "Hey, are you still locked on?" And he's like, "Yeah," and then all of a sudden he like flies through the globe just to get all the drones to follow and like crash themselves.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that was good.
It's a great scene. Anything? I mean, we kind of talked about the good and the bad. Is there a least favorite scene that everybody doesn't like that we haven't already hit on?
I feel like I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I hate the party scene. I do not like it.
You know,
you don't like the Gallagher?
Exactly.
No,
Exactly. I think that was the problem with that whole scene altogether. It was over the top for no fucking reason. Like, I mean, like you had the glorified party girls there, and it was like, man, like every time he blew something up, she was just way too ham for no fucking reason. It was like, chick, how many wine coolers did you have tonight? You know, stuff like that. You know, the best part about that whole scene was the fight scene. The actual party itself, bullshit.
Yeah, the party was dumb. But I did like the fight scene was definitely the highlight of that scene.
Yeah, I like the fight scene. I didn't like how it got there, so it just felt kind of shoehorned in. And then they
no. Actually, no. I like how the fight scene started though. It was because Rose walks in. He's like, "Everybody, go
I did like that.
home."
Yeah,
I'm not gonna tell you again. Go home.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, other than that, like, I don't really have a scene that I disliked that much.
This movie had decent pacing. I will say that because I mean, you know, like it had a real good balance of the humor and stuff like that. You know, like it has moments where it got serious, but you know, there was always some humor. Like for example, when Natasha like reboots Rhodes, so the old source code is gone out of him, and she's like, and she was like, yeah, I noticed you have a new armor plate, and looks like you're doing better. And he's like, yeah, I'm not dying anymore. And then Pepper's like, wait, you were dying, and this is all over a 3-way call.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
The scene I forgot to talk about, which I liked until he landed, and then I hated, was the opening scene of him like opening the. Not the Ivan Vanko opening scene, but the opening scene where he jumps out of the plane.
Oh, flying through the fireworks.
Yeah. And like
that was cool.
I thought that scene was really cool until he landed, and then like the dancers were just like, man, this is too, like, I get it, but this is too much.
Yo, all I could think about was like, this is the most America shit I've ever seen, man. Republicans probably had all sorts of boners for this shit.
Yeah.
Oh man. So Stan Lee's cameo in this movie.
Wasn't another Hugh Hefner?
No, it was Larry King.
Larry King. My bad. Larry King. My bad.
It was pretty funny.
I laughed.
I feel like the cameos started like it was just like an image of him, and then they just started evolving into like these longer and longer cameos, right?
It's not my favorite one though.
No. The best one is the Tony Stank one.
No,
that is a good one.
No, that is not. No. It's Homecoming. When it's like, hey, don't make me come down there. If the whole neighborhood's like bitching each other out the window, he's like, hey, don't make me come down there.
Marjorie, is that you? How are the kids?
I don't remember that one.
Yeah. I just watched Homecoming over Christmas. It's fresh in my brain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if we're going to talk about connections to later movies but
we are.
One of my great, because one of my favorite parts is, so there's a scene in the expo, the robots the drones are coming or whatever, and there's a kid and an Iron Man mask.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And Iron Man comes and saves them. And so years later, Tom Holland is cast as Spider-Man, and Tom Holland says, I like to think that was Peter Parker because the timing just kind of worked out. And he was like, I remember seeing that as a kid. And so I just like to think like that was when Peter Parker was like, oh, I love Tony Stark or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so then Kevin Feige was like, yeah, that's what that is.
Yeah.
And so now it's like canon that kid was Peter Parker. And I just think that that's so cool and just fits into the character so well.
Yeah.
And he would be there. He is in New York. He's the right age. He loves Iron Man. I mean, all the things.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great connection. I love it. I love that when they came out and said that, I was like, yes, that is cool.
Yeah.
Like, I get that that's like a retroactive fitting for that, but also like now that kid who played that kid be like, I was young Spider-Man. You know,
right,
too,
exactly. It just they've created this world that works like clockwork, so that things that they didn't even intend, the science works, right, and the timeline works. So they can see, and they like in the future, looking back at things, they can say, oh wait, here's this really cool piece of connective tissue that they don't even need to have thought about back then when they were making Iron Man 2, but because they've got the rules of their universe so well written and so well planned out that it can just work like that. And so I love things like that.
Yeah, it's awesome. And also we talked about the the Captain America shield, which was like kind of like the first kind of nod to say, hey, we're bringing Captain America back, and it's going to be, you know. I was so thrown by that shield though, because it's just so like, I understand like now looking back at it, it's clearly a prototype and they were trying to figure out like, you know, what are we doing with this? But like, man, that shield was just so, I don't know. It just really bothered me. It just looked like an unfinished craft is what it looked like.
Yeah.
But it was cool that it was in there. And then, I think that those were like kind of the only two really, right? Except for like the blatant shield stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's a more nuanced stuff. Like I mentioned earlier, like we learn about Tony's real relationship with his dad and all that stuff. Like that was nuanced, you know?
Yeah.
Because actually, I don't think there were any like real call outs to like future stuff coming down the pipeline. You know, like of course it's the big thing that of course they're going to shoehorn not shoehorn, but they're plotting their trajectory towards Captain America. They are doing that, and that's the big one that, you know, like everybody will spot.
Yeah,
right.
I'm trying to. I don't think there are any other really. Easter eggs. I'm just looking real quick. The senator, I guess, shows up in other movies and he ends up being a Hydra agent, right?
Right. He is in Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Senator Stearns.
Yeah, Senator Stern is a Hydra
Was
agent.
he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
He's the first one that you see whisper and do the Hail Hydra thing.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I forgot about that.
By the way, for anyone that doesn't realize the importance of like all the Senate Judiciary hearings that Tony Stark keeps getting called in, like that actually happens throughout like most of the entire comic book like franchise. Like every time, like at one point, like they're trying to figure out like, well, in the very first movie, he blows the roof off by saying he's Iron Man. Where in the comics, like it's one of these things where it's like, okay, like you have a military grade bodyguard, Mr. Stark. Who the fuck is he and stuff like that? So they keep dragging him back and forth in front of Congress and the Senate and stuff like that. And I love how the movies are paralleling that because they're like, yo, like we're gonna bring this guy in like every day that ends with a Y. to answer questions and try to turn over his stuff to us and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a cool nod to the roots of the franchise.
Yeah, definitely. I found one more Easter egg that we should talk about.
What's it?
On the map.
What's that?
On the map behind Nick Fury at the end of the movie, they have shield points of interest, and one of them is in Africa, which is the first indication that Black Panther
of Wakanda. Of Wakanda.
Right. Yeah. So
interesting.
Yeah. I see it too right here. It's like there's definitely like a big orange circle somewhere in the coast of Africa.
Right.
So.
Wait. Okay, so that's in the
like at the end where he's like giving Tony Stark the Avengers file or whatever, or taking it from him and saying, Iron Man yes, Tony Stark no. And he has like all the shield kind of clear screens around him. The one behind Nick Fury, as he's walking around the desk, has a map, and it has North America and South America on the left, and Africa on the right.
Yep, I pulled it up just now. I'm seeing it.
Yeah, so that's cool. I would have never noticed that.
Right. Actually, I remember noticing that way back when I first saw the movie. I remember noticing that, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I wonder where they're going with that."
But like, I don't even know if I would have recognized like where we're going with that.
Did you notice the one in the middle of the ocean?
Is that the raft? Is that what that is? What's the one in the middle of the ocean?
No, the one in the middle of the ocean down towards South America. That should be where Atlantis is at.
Well, maybe we'll get
We are going to name more movie.
All right. I believe you. I believe you. I'll just leave it at that. The after credits.
The way you said that just sounded like "shut up, nerd."
Nerd. Go watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. again.
I will. Tell me when you're ready.
The after credits scene is the dig site where Thor's hammer leaves, and it wasn't as exciting as the other two movies, I don't think.
You know what? Right. You know what? Here. You know what? This is funny though because I feel like when we first started talking about we're gonna do like the MCU like standard definition, like I was telling you guys that literally Iron Man 2 and Thor were fighting for like the worst position in my opinion and stuff like that. I remember in the movie theater when they showed the hammer, I was so amped because I was like, yes, Thor is going to be the one. It's going to be the one that gets me all in for this. Like I was like, it's going to get me all in, so I'll be totally ready for Captain America. And I remember being in the movie theater watching Thor, and I was like, man, this was an okay action movie, but not a good comic book movie. I remember that. I remember my reaction on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys. Like, I can't wait to rewatch Thor because this will officially be the second time I've seen this movie.
I'm excited for y'all to rewatch Thor because I think Thor is one of the better films in Phase 1, and it used to be my favorite film in Phase 1.
I'll give it credit. Like, there's some good moments in Thor, right? Like when he slams the coffee cup down, right in the diner. Like that's really funny. Yeah. Kat Dennings is really charming in that movie.
When she backs into him with the van.
Yeah, like she's really charming in that movie, right? And I like the scientist guy. Like he's really cool.
Yeah.
Like there's good parts of that movie. I'm excited to rewatch it because like I just don't remember a lot of it. I just remember the big kind of metal laser guy in the middle of this. Right. Shanty town in New Mexico.
Shanty town.
Sorry, whoever lives in that town. that fake town that they probably built for this movie.
Man, they're coming
get
for
a
you.
lot of hate mail for that.
They're coming for you. His at is I am Corey in HD.
Yep.
On Twitter.
Yep.
Get him.
So I'm excited to watch Thor, but it is that time, gentlemen, where we get to rank the MCU. Our current position right now is Iron Man is sitting at number 1, and the Incredible Hulk is sitting comfortably at number 2. Mark, we're going to lead off with you. What your choice is. Is it better or worse than Incredible Hulk?
Iron Man 2?
Yeah.
It is. Is it better or worse than the Incredible Hulk? It is better than the Incredible Hulk.
Okay. Is it better than Iron Man 1?
No.
Okay. So you're sitting.
No way.
You're sitting at number 2. Okay. LeRon, what about you?
Okay, it is definitely better than Incredible Hulk. And you know what? I thank you guys for actually forcing me to watch The Incredible Hulk because I had no respect for it coming into standard definition, but I actually have respect for it now. But not enough respect to say it's better than Iron Man 2.
Okay.
Now, I'm thinking really hard here about whether it's better than Iron Man 1, and my gut is saying no, it is not because like I explained to you guys, like I saw this movie, I saw Iron Man 1 in a sneak preview, and it set me off on this trajectory that I just did not know was possible at that point. So no, it is not better than the first Iron Man.
Okay, so that would clearly position it at number 2 since I've been outvoted. I feel like
You feel like it's better than number 1?
Man, the only thing that like holds me back from confirming it's better than Iron Man 1 is Justin Hammer. Like that's literally the only thing that's holding me back. I'm just like he's still over the top. And like Obadiah Stane is a better villain than Justin Hammer.
I was just about to ask you, was Obadiah Stane better than Justin Hammer or vice versa? I was just about to ask you that.
But both boss fight suits are ridiculously stupid. Also.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
But I like Whiplash better than Ironmonger. I mean,
Right.
I'm outvoted here. I like, man, dude, this is going to get really hard once we get more than like 5 movies here.
It is, yes.
So what we should do though is like have a reigning champ for each of the phases though. So right now, as it stands, Iron Man is clearly the reigning champ of phase 1. But who knows? We still have 3 movies left.
Yeah, I think Iron Man is probably the better movie, to be honest with you. The origin story is really good. There's not a lot of complicated B plots really, right? Where this is like, you gotta kind of keep up now from here on out to be like, oh well, this is this character, here are the threads, whatever. And I think as a movie this early on in the MCU, Iron Man is probably better than Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
But I like Don Cheadle as War Machine.
Yeah.
The movie had like standout moments. I will say that.
I really like Iron Man 2. But so I'm just gonna stop right there because I could argue that all day and there's no point.
You're not gonna get us this way.
So our current MCU ranking sits as follows: number 3, The Incredible Hulk; number 2, Iron Man 2; and number 1, Iron Man still sits at number 1. So yeah, next week is Thor.
Yes.
Right, Thor. Right, yeah. Thor came before Captain America. So Thor is next, then Captain America, and then the Avengers. I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening to this episode of MCU in Review on Standard Definition. Remember, you can catch a new episode of Standard Definition every Sunday on your podcast service of choice. If you want the show 2 weeks early, you can go to patreon.com/Boss Rush Network, and just for $1, you get 2 weeks early access to this show, After Dark, and 3 days early access to the Boss Rush podcast and Boss Rush Presents. It's a good deal for $1. That's $1.25 per show. Each, well, actually, it's cheaper than that, actually, if you want to go the whole month, but just saying. Mark, where can we find you?
You can find me on Boss Rush, writing movie reviews and TV show reviews and banters and all those good things. And then you can also find me on Twitter. Excuse me, except in Pererra is my Twitter name.
Yes. LeRon, where can we find you?
All right, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Exodus803, as well as on Twitch and YouTube at Exodus803, and that is my gamer tag for PlayStation Network, but my gamer tag for Xbox Live, which I was corrected on recently, is Exodus0803. So, you got it all. And don't forget, Tuesday nights, I'm the main host for Crossroads PlayStation Podcast on twitch.tv/Exodus803. And also, I am on the Wednesday night shows for the Boss Rush podcast, as well as I'm the host of Boss Rush After Dark, which, like Corey said, patrons, you get to hear it early, and we get lively there.
We do. That is a lively show. Oh boy, it gets colorful. We'll say that. You can find me at IamCourtneyHD on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me hosting the Boss Rush podcast every Wednesday night live on twitch.tv/Boss Rush Network. You can also find me hosting Arsenal X, the Xbox podcast. I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye.
Take care.
See ya.